Skyler Bascom, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's
I'm
good to
really
be
looking
here.
forward to I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. So to continue on from where we were before this, so you are probably the most interesting person I've ever had on here from the standpoint that you are doing something that I haven't always admitted to myself that I would like to do. Being very much an influence on people's lives,
Mm.
and so it's really good to know you. So um, I want to talk to you and get you to sort of tell me how you got into what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing. Tell you how you got into what you're doing. And go back as far as you need to. Like, how did you what did you grow up religious? Where did you grow up? What all influenced uh, how you come to be doing what you're doing now? And then, um, yeah, I think you were what a chaplain,
Mhm.
an army chaplain.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
That's interesting. So yeah,
yeah.
um, go ahead and give us the lowdown how you got into coaching and mental health work that you're
Mhm.
doing.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, so I do non-traditional therapy. So that's the key to it all. It's
Oh,
non-traditional in the sense that I'm actively trying to help guys that are resistant to couch counseling. So,
oh,
yeah, when I think about guys that are just resistant, nope, not going to talk about my feelings, not going to talk about my emotions, that is my target audience. Specifically first responders. So my clients, I have people in the FBI, Rapid City Police, Rapid City Fire, a lot of veterans, a lot of people with PTSD. So my calling is to encourage, coach, and teach people to thrive in mind, body, and spirit. So that's what I'm doing full time. I am a chaplain in the military as well. So I do that, and I have 5 kiddos. So we homeschool and take care of 5 kids. And so my origin story really begins with pain. I would say it just begins with pain and suffering. You asked if I was religious. Very much not from a religious home whatsoever. My dad was a product of the 60s and 70s, actually a nudist, believe it or not. So,
really
yeah, my father is a nudist. Did a lot of
interesting.
psychedelics, a lot of hard drugs. He has stories about taking multiple hits of acid and going on rants and tangents for days on end. And so, really heavy 80s rock scene is what I was kind of born into. My father's a hard partier, was a hard partier. He's clean and sober for like, I think he's going on 18 years now. So that's great. But because of that environment, there was a lot of neglect. My parents never physically abused me, mentally abused me,
Oh,
sexually, but there was like tremendous neglect. And so, in a lot of ways, that led to great exploration. Like me and my sister got to just explore our little town growing up. So I knew every railroad, I knew every trestle, I knew every
interesting.
swimming spot, I knew every hole. I would go door to door and just like meet people. And
Really?
so, yeah, oh yeah, totally. Like it was just
Like as a kid?
90s, just free, just like I
Man,
was
that is
free to
interesting.
roam. Yeah. So, actually didn't know I had a rough childhood. Um, I didn't know it until fast forwarding a little bit in the story. I was getting a master's degree in counseling, and they talked about adverse childhood experiences, ACE
Oh yeah.
scores. And there are 10 ways you can experience adverse childhood experiences. And I was listening to them count it off, and I was in my head checking off, like, all right, got that one, got that one, got that one. End of it, I have nine out of 10 possible A scores. And so statistically, so the ACE study came out of Kaiser Permanente in 1999. They did a longevity study to say the amount of A scores you have triples and quadruples the amount of possibilities you're going to abuse your children, you're going to have adverse childhood experiences, wind up in jail, and ultimately death. Like the more you have, the more likely you're going to have heart issues, lung issues, be incarcerated, be addicted to drugs, and just live a poor life.
And you had 9 out of 10.
I 9 out of 10. And so that gets me to how I
Wow.
began doing the work. So I started learning about this, and I started asking myself, wait, but why not me? At that time, I had graduated with a bachelor's degree, a pretty successful like high school athlete, nothing amazing, but a good high school athlete, graduated the top 10% of my class, got a full ride scholarship. I was like, but why not me? Why not me?
Yeah.
And the reason, and I didn't know this term at the time, but was because of mentors. To this day, I can close my eyes and I can see Mr. Cloud, Mr. Younger, Mrs. Yon, Mrs. Hawkins, Mr. Bennett, these people that like took me under their wing and really showed me how to be a father, how to be a man. They're my coaches, they're my teachers. And so I grew up just loving sports and loving school and didn't really know why, but it's because they showed me love, they showed me respect, they showed me dignity, they had good structure. And so I just craved that.
So
And
this
so
would have been
yeah.
like from quite young.
Yes, very young. Um, Mr. Mr. Turner was my second grade
Oh,
teacher.
wow.
He taught me how to throw a spiral, so he actually let me be the team water boy, the middle school water boy.
I see.
Yeah. And I was never late. I was always on time. I would show up with the water. I would like be there. And he saw something in me. So Mr. Turner, then I had a good childhood friend, Mr. Bellingham. He was a basketball coach, and he saw that I was a little bit taller than most kids my age. So he's like, hey, why don't you come start traveling with us, start playing basketball? That turned to Miss Yon, Miss Hawkins. They saw, I think, the fire in me in 5th grade. I would just get so fired up and I would get in fist fights. I would just, yeah, oh yeah, I would just cry. I would just like, I had a lot of high emotions.
Gotcha.
And so I think that they saw that and wanted to like harness it. So, and then it was like literally just kind of passed down year after year after year. And then I ended up playing multiple sports, became an all-state football player. Yeah, and I attributed it to mentors. I didn't realize at the time. I was kind of looking back after doing that ACE score saying, but how was my life story different?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, that's right about 2014 to 2016 window.
Okay.
And then I decided, well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be a mentor. And so I got all the resources I could. I met a guy named John Sowers who did the mentoring project in Portland, Oregon. And I said, I'm going to mentor as many kids as possible. And so my pathway to that was through school counseling. So I went and got a I got a master's degree in school counseling. And at that time, I was like, I'm going to just mentor students. So we created what's called the Mentorship program in Sweet Home in Lebanon, Oregon. And we mentored like 100 kids in, I think it was like 8 months or so. We matched 100 at-risk youth with 100 mentors. And it was awesome.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So what were the qualifications? What were the qualifications for a mentor?
There's 3.
Okay.
To show up. So at-risk youth need to know that your word is your word. Just show up. If you're going to be a mentor, you're going to be there on time. You're going to show up in these kids' life. Number 2 is to live out. So just as it is important to live out Jesus's works and show people their love. Jesus said, you will know my disciples by your love. You will know you're my disciples by your love. And the second thing is to live out our truth. So before we start preaching to kids, before we start sharing the gospel, they need to see the gospel lived out. They need to see love. They need to see respect. Gotcha. And then number 3, to speak in. So after you show up, after you get that platform, after you start living out the truth, then you have the opportunity to speak into a kid's life. So those are the big things: show up, live out, speak in. Okay.
So did you have some sort of a like course or how did you, what did what's the word I'm looking for? How did you find the mentors though? Was there a course you put them through, like a testing ground that you put them through in order to be a mentor? And what demographic of people did you pull the mentors from?
Yeah. So John Sowers, in his book called Fatherless Generation, he had a thesis that if every church adopted as many at-risk youth as there are members, there would not be fatherlessness in the United States. That was his thesis. So he wrote a dissertation called The Fatherless Generation, and he challenged churches to adopt at-risk youth.
Okay.
And so what we did, we would go right to the churches and I would share my story. I would start with a story. I would talk about having lice, having scabies, being basically neglected, having abuse, having alcohol in my home, drugs in my home. And I said, and why am I standing here today? Because of mentors. And I would just share
Interesting.
exactly what I shared with you. And I would say, hey, if you guys want to sign up, talk to me after service. They would come, they would sign up, we would do a background check, make sure that they're safe, they have nothing on their criminal record. And then after that, they would go to a 3-day training. First day, how do you show up? Second day, how do you live out? Third, how do you
Okay.
speak in?
And
Yeah.
then if you were interested in this, you could say, hey, look, I'm interested in doing this.
Yep, totally. Yeah, and we ran a podcast called the Mentoring Podcast during
Okay.
the time. Yep.
Yep.
So, we got a lot of support, and it was amazing. Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to
Uh-huh.
talk about that more, but I want to go back.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
said, when did you say that you began to realize what sets me apart? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At what age did you realize that what age again did you realize that you had 9 out of the 10 factors that we were
Mhm.
talking about, yet your life wasn't in shambles? At what age did you realize this?
About 24.
So you were already okay. So what made you choose? I don't know if I'm using the right word here. What made you choose the humanities like before that? Like, what
Oh,
made you
yeah.
choose? Why did you decide to get into this?
Okay, that's a whole okay. So I'm a product of 9/11 in a lot of ways. So I was in 7th grade. It was right before my 12th birthday that the Twin Towers got hit. And so during that time, boys wanted to go and be a Marines, wanted to go into special forces, and I wanted to go into the FBI. What could be the coolest thing to serve your country? So there was a lot of us. So Iraq Freedom, that was right. What, my 8th grade year, freshman
Yeah.
year. So people were getting deployed. You would see
Ah,
the bombs on the television, like. So there was a big emphasis on serving your country at that time. So during that time, this was my plan. I was going to graduate high school. I was going to become a Navy SEAL, and then I was going to join the FBI. So I had that kind of planned out. And so I went to Whitworth University. Like I was saying, I had a full ride scholarship to
yep.
Whitworth. It was such a blessing. And during my first year there, I got done with like a philosophical conversation, like 2 a.m. with some friends. And then
Oh
I'm
yeah.
walking on the campus, and then I just look over the horizon. There's like this low hanging fog over these nice aspen trees. And I just hear as clear as day, come with me. 3 words, come with me. And I knew it was God. I knew it was Jesus. And I knew he was calling me to give up everything. And so I did. I finished up my first year of college. And then I told myself, I'm never going to go back to college. I'm just going to follow this voice. I'm just going to give it everything I got. And so I gave up my dreams of being a SEAL. I stopped training for the SEALs, gave my dreams of being in the FBI, and I just followed that voice. Well, the interesting thing is, to make a long story short, that voice led me to get a bachelor's in theology. That bachelor's in theology led me back to chaplaincy, back to the military, but as a chaplain. So rather than taking life as a SEAL, like I thought, I was serving Christ. And so
Right.
I just gave up everything at that point in my life. I just knew. And this is the wild thing. I had never read the Bible before. I'd heard little proverbs here, maybe psalms here, maybe bumper stickers. I never read the Bible. When I heard that Jesus told his disciples, "Come follow me," I almost jumped out of my skin. Uh,
Because you understood that voice.
I knew that voice.
That's wild that you heard the voice before you really knew of Christian. I mean, before you had even understood what Christianity
Right.
was.
Yeah. I got baptized that spring, started reading the Bible, and like I said, when I read that's what he told his disciples, I just nearly jumped out of my skin.
That is very, very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Look, oh man, this is fascinating because this is not something, frankly, that I have ever experienced. I only know about this from people like you talking about this. These experiences happen to people. And I'm one of these people who I believe in God.
Mhm.
And I choose to believe in God, but this distinguishing the voice of God, like you clearly knew and you followed the thing. And it's not it's not nearly that simple
No, it's not at
for
all.
for for me,
Well,
anyways.
that first instance, I knew that I knew that I knew. I knew, but after I was baptized and after I started following Christ, I mean, it was like the mystery began.
Oh, I see. So the
How do
call
you
is
discern the will of God? How do you understand him? I mean, all those things. What's right? What's wrong? Does he want me to go left? Does he want me to go right? Why can't I hear him? Why did I go through a valley of years of
yeah,
just stagnation? So although it started in a very beautiful way, then I got discipled, and I really took my
yeah.
lumps of years without hearing
I
him. And
see. I see.
yeah,
So you would say the call was quite simple, but
yeah,
the following afterwards was where it got a little difficult.
absolutely. Still
Interesting.
is.
So tell me, so
Still is.
Whitworth? Is
Yeah.
that what you said?
Yeah,
Where's
yeah.
Whitworth?
That's in Spokane, Washington. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that
Mm.
how long is I know nothing about this
Okay.
theology
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to get a theology degree.
Yeah. So after Whitworth, like I said, I just followed that voice, and I was a wildland firefighter that summer. And so I just packed my Bible, went back to Oregon. That's where I'm from, Oregon,
Yep,
Willamette
yep.
Valley, and continued firefighting that summer. And I read the Bible cover to cover. That's all I want to do. I was just eating it, just consuming it. I wanted to know everything about this Jesus as I possibly could. And at the end of that fire season, I really, like I said, I had felt like God was telling me, um, you only can serve two masters. You'll either love one or you'll hate the other. You can't serve God and
Yep.
money. So for me, it was, you can't be a Navy SEAL. You can't pursue this dream of the FBI. So I said, okay, I'm following you. So I left firefighting that year without a plan to go to college ever again. I gave it up.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I end up with a backpack and a Bible, went to Eugene, Oregon, not knowing anyone there. My older sister lives there, but other than that, no place to stay, nothing. Just got a job at REI. And I was like, I'm going to follow this voice. And that voice led me to being discipled under this guy named Scott Biondi at Calvary Chapel. He really taught me how to read the Bible. And within a few sessions, he goes, you know what? You should think about going back to school. I was like, no, I gave all that
You
up. I'm
decided
not going to
no.
pursue that. He's like, no, I think you should. I think you should consider going back to school. So how God would have it, there was a local school there called Northwest Christian University, NCU, and they were accepting transfers. Check this out. I'm a poor kid. I mean, I'm from like
Yep.
trailer park
Yep.
poor. Um, and they were accepting that year transfers with high GPAs, full ride scholarships. So although I gave that up at Whitworth,
Yeah.
that year they're like, we want more transfers, and if you have a high GPA, we're going to pay the next 3 years of your school. So I was like, just open right up. I interviewed, and they
Wow.
said, yep, we would like you here. And so there I did a traditional biblical theology degree. So
Hmm.
Greek, Old Testament, New Testament, got into the patristics, the early church fathers, and really studied under a guy named Ron Heine. Ron Heine, it was amazing. Lauren Crow, amazing professors. And so I learned theology the best I could. I just gave everything I got, said, okay, I'm going to follow this voice. I'm going to learn everything about the Bible that I possibly could. Yep. So that was my
Interesting.
bachelor's degree. After that, decided to go to Regent College up in Canada, Vancouver, Canada, to get a master's degree. And so started working on that. And then that's when me and my wife's stories get really interesting.
Oh.
So my wife, she has a high A score as well. And that year, she started suffering with some eating disorder stuff.
Oh.
She is a long distance runner. She does ultras
Yep.
now, and but that year she started running for the first time, and she started not eating and started kind of starving herself.
Uh-oh.
Well, during that time, her mind essentially started getting the best of her, and we went into that second year of Regent College as what I call like the summer of hell. Just our marriage started falling apart. We had one daughter at the time,
Oh.
and we didn't think we were going to make it out of that summer at all. And so it was out of that summer that I probably heard God the second time most clearly. Um, my wife decided to step out on her marriage that summer,
Yep.
and I knew the guy. I knew his home address. I knew
Oh,
exactly where I could find him. So I got in my car and went down the highway, and I was gonna just pummel this guy. I was
beat him.
gonna, yep, I was gonna beat him. And as I was going, it was almost like my eyes opened up, and I could see the woman that went and wept at Jesus's feet and cleaned his feet with her tears and her hair. And Jesus said, if you love me, you'll forgive much. Those who love little forgive little. And I just knew right away that I had to
Oh,
forgive him. And so I go and knock on this guy's house, and he comes out and he's all freaked out. He's like, oh, because he knew exactly
yeah,
what was
yeah.
gonna happen. And his friend's in the background. I think his friend had a bat. Either his friend had a bat, or he was like, I remember him being like really posed and ready.
So they knew you were on the way.
Oh yeah, they knew. They knew I was gonna bring it. And so and then I hugged him. I hugged him and said, I forgive you. And he's like, what? He said, what do you mean? I was like, I forgive you because Jesus forgave me. And then I just turned around, walked away. And that forgiveness opened up a huge chapter in me and my wife's life. Like, rather than getting divorced like our parents did, rather than doing that to our firstborn child,
Yeah.
instead we opened this chapter of forgiveness and love. She felt forgiven, she felt loved. And then we went to a marriage therapist, and
I see.
during that session I said, I want to do what this guy does.
Oh,
Yeah, so during that session I was like, I want to do what this guy does for other people, what he's doing for our marriage right now. So we learned how to forgive. We learned how to,
I see. And so
yeah,
I see. So this is
yeah,
what I see.
yeah. There you go. So it
That
came
is
out of
interesting.
hurt. That's what I'm saying. The calling came from hurt.
Now, well,
Yeah, a
that
lot of
does seem
hurt.
to be the case. That's
Yeah.
what inspirations come from pain. I mean,
Right.
um, I suppose that speaks to Paul talking about loving adversity.
Hmm.
That's a deep place to be when you can actually love adversity. But anyway, so okay, so you practiced in Oregon for a while, this sort of thing. So
Yeah.
you got into okay.
Hmm. Yep.
I think I have lost track of where. So you went to marriage counseling. You weren't
Hmm.
doing this. You weren't doing this with the school yet.
No, no, no.
Okay.
We kind of jump back in time.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about after you made the decision to be a. This is when you sort of made the decision to be a counselor.
Well, yeah, just kind of in my mind. It wasn't like anything formal. I didn't go back to school or anything. It was just kind of in my mind, like, oh, I want to do
Oh.
what
Oh.
this guy's doing. Like, it was very evident that he was patient, he was
Oh
kind, he
yeah.
was skillful. He's exactly what we needed. Exactly. His name's Pete Kaufman. Um, pastor. He's a pastor, and he's a therapist in Oregon. And he taught us like two simple tools to my wife. He's like, can you eat a banana every day? Like, she was like not even eating.
At
And
all.
not even, well, I mean, she would eat, but it was like, it was that force that at the very beginning, she didn't even think she could like wake up and eat a banana every day. That was
Oh
it. First
wow.
tool, like, take care of your body. He asked me, can you continue to exercise every day? Can you run, work out? And then the other thing was learning how to forgive. Learning for me to tell her, like, I'm feeling vulnerable right now. I'm feeling mad right now.
Mm.
I'm feeling angry right now. I can visualize what happened, all this stuff, even though I forgave him. And then her saying, I'm sorry. And me saying, I forgive you. And just working that and working that and working that. At first, it was like weekly. I mean, at first, like, it was probably daily,
Yeah.
actually. I was like, man, I'm feeling insecure right now. I want to look at your phone. I want to check messages. Like, I'm feeling really insecure. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it was like more weekly, then it was monthly, and then it went away. It just faded away.
Yo.
And God
The
like restored our
the
marriage.
fact that
Yeah.
I have an honest question. If you hadn't had kids, would
Mhm.
you had the courage to do that?
I think God was gripping my heart and soul. When I had that experience, it was though I was driving down the highway, And it was like my vision went to another place. I mean, I really felt like I was that woman at Jesus's feet, and Jesus was saying, "He who loves much forgives much." I mean, whether I had kids or not, I don't think that
Wow.
was even a thought in my
Look,
mind. You know?
I have questions
Yeah,
about this.
yeah.
That's a gift, dude.
Mm.
Because I mean that's fascinating to me. I mean, there are people who okay, there are people who pray desperately for signs
Yeah.
and don't get them, and then you had an experience like that. That's incredible.
Hmm. Well, if you look at if you look at some stories, like, do you know who Chris Bledsoe is? He has the
Mm.
most UFO sightings in U.S. history.
Oh,
It's
I
really
see.
interesting. If you look at Chris Bledsoe's life, he actually believes that UFOs are not UFOs. That's a government cover up and stuff. That's actually spiritual and it's actually angels. But if you
Oh,
look at
right, yeah.
most UFO sightings, people are usually in distress. That's certainly his story. He wrote about a book called The God of the UFOs.
Okay.
And he talks about his own story about being in distress and this angel of light coming to him. But if you look at a lot of different stories throughout Christian literature, it's usually when people are in crisis. It's not when things are going good. It's not when
Right.
everything is happy dory. It's usually when people are crying out desperately.
Right.
And then that's when Christ will come. So I wouldn't say that I have like this spiritual depth to me that I'm always hearing from God. I mean, I just talked about two of them. I could probably count maybe three total that I know
Yeah.
that I know that I
Yeah.
know is from God, and they came out of places of desperation. So
Yeah.
whether that's for everybody, but I know that's for my story, and I've heard it told other times. Same with near death experiences. I know eventually
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
probably get into Hemi-Sync and
Yep.
outer body experiences. If you look at those near death experiences, they're in crisis and they need some sort of comfort. And that's usually when the angel of light will come in. And that's when God will comfort people. It's in near death experiences that people usually triggers the first out of body experience. So I wouldn't say,
Interesting.
yeah, it's some special gift or anything like that. It's more like God knew what I needed in both of those circumstances. And so he delivered exactly what I needed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, well,
Changed my
it's
life.
back to the thing of whether you want to call diverse or call adversity a gift.
Right.
I mean, the problem is a person looking on can think it's a gift, but they don't understand what the cost of it was.
Right. Doesn't feel good at the time.
Right. Right. But that's interesting about the guy with the UFO. So
Yeah, Chris
he has
Bledsoe.
this his belief is that that's actually manifestations of
Yeah.
well, either the
He's
spirit
in the
world or the
Vatican.
imagination or
This
something
is
like this.
he's in the Vatican. His picture's in the Vatican next to Copernicus. Chat GPT or look it up. That says something. So in the Vatican,
Yep.
Copernicus, picture of him. Next is Chris Bledsoe.
It's interesting. So okay,
Yeah.
where was him? Where was he? Is he still
Hmm.
alive?
Yeah. If your viewers are interested in, Sean Ryan has a great interview. Sean Ryan,
With him?
yeah, with Chris Bledsoe.
Well, how did I miss it?
Yeah,
I
I
watch
don't know.
almost
Yeah,
all of his
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
the
don't know.
UFO of God. That's his book too. No, I'm not into UFOs or
Right.
ufology, but I think it's interesting in the time of need and in the time of crisis. Jesus, Yeshua is the one who saves.
Yep.
It seems as though not only does he save us from our sins, but he also saves us in times of desperation when we need
Right.
him.
Got you.
Yeah. At least in my life, he has, for sure.
So, were you in all this time? Were you sort of affiliated with any kind of a particular church?
Hmm. Yeah.
And how did you and how did you choose the one you chose?
Yeah. So it all came from community and it came from discipleship. And I was telling you about my history with mentoring. So the concept of discipleship, that a pastor would take me under his wing and teach me how to read the Bible, was very similar to my coaching experience growing up. So I thrive
Mm.
being under somebody's
Okay.
authority. I thrive somebody teaching me, coaching me.
Yep.
And so Scott Biondi, pastor of Calvary Chapel, baptized my wife. I'd been baptized that spring, and then he showed me, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to teach you how to read the Bible, and pretty quickly, I'm going to teach you how to preach." And he allowed me to start preaching young. I'm talking like 21, 22,
I
new to the
see.
faith. He started letting me preach, and so I think that was very, very intriguing to me, and is interesting. I just had this group of guys. Probably about 5 guys, and they were all new to their faith. They had young marriages, and we were all just excited about the Bible. We were excited about Jesus. And so community and discipleship really led me, and that was through Calvary Chapel. Yeah.
I see. So are
Mhm.
they? I don't know anything about Calvary Chapel. Are they like a big church, or are they?
Yeah, they're
Was it
really
just a
popular in the
one?
West Coast.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was originally founded by a guy named Chuck Smith. And have you ever heard of the Jesus movement or the Jesus revolution in the 70s?
I've heard of it, but I don't know if
Yeah,
I very
so
know little,
so
very
it
know little
was
about it.
it was created by Chuck Smith in this Calvary Chapel movement. So
Oh,
essentially, they started welcoming hippies into their
oh,
churches, and they were baptizing hippies, and it kind of blew up from California and spread. So I was just north of California in Oregon, so there were a handful of prominent Calvary chapels there.
what's their thing? What set them apart?
Yeah, non-denominational.
Okay,
Come as you are,
okay,
be who you are. Not in like the woke sense, like be
yeah,
who you are.
right.
So
Not in the
just
yep.
clarification. But meaning dress how you want to
Oh,
dress.
oh, oh.
Like if you want to come in flip flops, that's okay. If you want to have long hair, that's okay. If you
Yeah.
have tattoos, that's okay.
Basically, they want to meet you where you
Yeah,
are.
and that was revolutionary, in the 60s and 70s when everybody was in suit and tie.
Right,
So you got to think about it that way. It's like mainline Protestant denominations, Lutherans,
right.
Presbyterians, Wesleyan, you showed up in suit and tie. So
Yep.
for them to let barefoot hippies in was a big deal. It was,
Right.
right? And so
That's
what set them
interesting.
aside was that. And then biblical literacy. That was another one. Chuck Smith and his predecessors would start in Genesis and they would preach to the Revelation. And they would do that about every 7-year cycle. They would preach
I
through the Bible.
see.
Yeah. They called it verse by verse, word by word, going through the Bible.
That's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Very low educated in the sense that very few masters of divinities, very few doctorates in the movement. I would say on the spectrum, a little bit Pentecostal,
Okay,
but
okay.
not too
Yeah,
Pentecostal.
yeah. Not. It was like who?
A little dabbling
Who
in
is that? Is that
Pentecostal.
Tim Hawkins? Are you familiar with Tim Hawkins? He talks about well,
Oh, the
there.
comedian. Oh
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, there's this thing about where he talks about when the different levels of this sort of thing, and like when there's the full blown hands over your head
Yeah.
dancing, and you didn't weren't quite that far. The hands were just maybe this high.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe
Right.
like palms up. Maybe one arm,
Yeah, that interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So, were there a lot of young people in that church
Mm-hmm.
in that movement?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Primarily.
and and
20s.
and diligent. Not so.
Hungry.
How
Yeah.
would you listen? How would you compare? So it seems like there's a big movement towards religion right now.
Hmm.
I don't know what you think about that, and how do you compare that to sort of what happened in the '60s and '70s? Or no, I mean
Hmm.
not the '60s and '70s, or yeah, maybe, or maybe during your when you the '90s, '80s, you would in the '90s. When would you?
Oh, so
Well,
when
because you're
you're coming
talking.
to faith, so the Calvary Chapel movement
Oh yeah,
happened
yeah,
in the
right.
60s and 70s.
Yeah, right.
I'm talking 2008, 9, 10
Gotcha.
is the time period I was talking about that me and my
Oh
friends
yeah, yeah.
were coming to
Okay.
faith. But they were just part of the movement of the Jesus movement of
Yeah,
the
gotcha. I
60s.
was getting confused with
Yep.
that. Yes, we were
Yep.
done. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha now. So how the question is
Mm.
how do you compare where we are now, maybe compared to the deal in the '60s and '70s in sort of the revolution against the suits and ties? Like, are you familiar with what I'm talking about with
No,
the
I'm not.
Christian movement
No.
now? I don't know. I don't know a lot of. How do I explain this? I know that churches are showing statistics that the amount of the Christianity in Generation Z is higher than the generation before it.
Okay.
And millennials are kind of, I can't remember this, but I know like it's increasingly more as you get younger.
Okay.
So there's a big religious movement in the young people. I didn't know if you were familiar with this and you had thoughts about this. I mean, you can develop an opinion right now. So here, I find this very interesting, and I wonder if it's partly a response to some of this woke garbage that we're talking about, partly,
Hmm.
or what is it? I don't.
Hmm.
I'm kind of fascinated by that.
Hmm.
Anyway,
I don't know.
I don't know either. All right, where were we in your story? You got into the mentorship.
Mhm.
You started preaching.
Yep.
You had you had some really tough going with your marriage. Oh
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So you had some tough going with your marriage. You got that put back together, and somewhere
Mhm.
in there you actually started. What happened there between that and setting up your school
Yeah.
thing? How did you get into the counseling and
Yeah.
stuff, or what did you go?
Robert Bly has a book called Iron John, and it's a fascinating piece of literature that has a bunch of folklore about men, the journey from boyhood to manhood.
Okay.
And he takes different traditions, English traditions, folklore, some of the myths from like Celtic traditions, and he puts together into this book. And one thing he talks about is needing to shovel ashes at the foot of the king. And he goes into the story about this young boy, and he's a prince, and he loses his ball, and he goes into the forest, and he has to decide whether he goes into the forest or stays behind the walls. And after he decides to go in the forest, there's this man named Iron John there. And Iron John essentially was like John the Baptist. He was like this real wild man. And he takes his prince, and he teaches them all types of manhood. And on his way back, it's very much like Lion King, if you think about the story of Lion King. But
Yeah.
on the prince's way back into the kingdom, he can't assert himself as a king, but he has to go into the basement, and he has to shovel coal at the feet of the king.
Oh.
He has to warm the king's feet by shoveling coal out. And he talks about how every man's life has this coal shoveling time period. And that's what that period was for me. I had my one daughter that I was telling you.
Yep.
She's 15 now, turned 16 really soon. And then I had my second daughter during that time period. And I worked at a weigh shack in a building that was probably 8 by 8, checking in log trucks and stapling them, stapling their weight on the log trucks. So there I was, had a bachelor's degree, had a graduate diploma at that time from from Regent College, and there I was making minimum wage or just over minimum wage, and those were my um,
Yeah.
coal shoveling years, and I needed that. I didn't know how bad I needed that. I had to wake up at about 4:30 a.m. Had to get to work by 5. If you were late within a 6-month period, you got fired. They told you that right up front. You wore a yellow hat, and you were called a yellow hat. Everyone else had orange hats, and if you showed up one late, one safety violation, you were fired. And they told you that during orientation. My orientation,
Good
yeah,
grief.
my orientation was like 120 people were interviewing, and I think four or six got hired. Out of those 4 or 6, the others got fired, and the only 2 of us made it out of that. So out of 100 and some people, 2 of us made it through this process. And we're talking blue collar, dips in, no BS kind of guys. Like you
There's some
don't look at them cross, you just do your work, you just put your head down, and you just get your job done.
the attrition rate for Navy SEALs ain't that bad.
Oh, that's awesome. I
That's
thought I was going
incredible.
into SEAL training. I ended up going into working for Weyerhaeuser at a logging at a
What was the deal with
logging
that?
timber.
Why was it so
Just
terribly
tough,
strict?
tough, man, tough. Poverty. There's poverty
Oh,
all
oh,
around there. We're talking in the Willamette Valley. They used to be the booming industry of mills. I mean, I'm talking like mill upon mill upon mill. If you've ever been to Oregon and Pacific Northwest, that's our commodity. We have Doug firs everywhere, beautiful landscape. But that's our commodity. There used to be mills everywhere. And then during the spotted owl crisis, I don't know if you know about that, but in the 70s, the government shut down logging.
Completely
Down
shut
to
her down.
nothing. And so poverty just struck my whole area. So I grew up in a real poor area, and there weren't very many jobs. You either worked for the school district, and this is kind of weird to think about now. You worked for the school district and you got a good job. If you worked for the school district, you had a nice house and you had a salary. That's how poor my neighborhood, my town
Wow.
was. I know. Think about that. And so the other jobs were working a trade, working a chainsaw out in the woods, or working at a mill. I mean, you don't have many options. That's about it.
And the milling must have not been that much.
No. Out of that hierarchy I just named, milling is probably right in the bottom. Out of the good jobs you can get. Other than that, your service industry, man. Working for some chain restaurant. So I'm sitting there, like, I got kids at this point. I have a college education. I had these dreams to be in the military. I'm a very driven person, just
Yeah.
in my nature. That's who I am. So during that time, I said, okay, well, what's my plan? What's my mission? And I started getting into some literature around building a personal mission statement. So I read some books by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Read a book by Donald Miller called A Million Miles in 1,000 Years. Another book by Donald Miller called Hero on a Mission. And some existential work like Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yep.
And all of them had this tight thesis that all good stories consist of a character who wants something and overcomes obstacles to get it. And they were all kind of making the same argument. If you want to live a good life, it's got to be like a good movie. It's got to be like a good story.
Yep.
You got to know what you want. And so I started crafting this personal mission statement. I remember, like, I would just sit there, do a log truck, and then I'd be listening to these books. Tony Robbins too. I was listening to Tony Robbins, some self-help book. Listening, reading, because I would have like gaps in trucks. And so I would have books right there and I'd be reading or audiobooks, YouTube. So I was just kind of like trying to figure out what's my mission in life. What is my mission in life? And so I started crafting this mission statement, started working it, crafting it, working it, crafting it. Donald Miller says your personal mission statement should be recitable, and you should be able to commit it to memory. So much so, if someone points a gun at you, you should be able to recite it.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive because that's stressful.
Right. So I started working it until I could do this. So I came up with my mission, my personal mission statement is to encourage, coach, and teach those around me to thrive in mind, body, and spirit.
That's fantastic. There's not very
That
many
was it.
people I know who can state their mission statement actually.
So that was it.
Go ahead.
So it was from that. So once I crafted that personal mission statement, I literally started going, how do I get there?
What's it take to deliver on this?
To encourage, coach, and teach those around me to thrive in mind, body, and spirit. And so I was like, all right, what do you do with the bachelor's in theology? The answer is not very much. There's not very many options. And so I started looking into military chaplaincy. And then so that's when I was like, hey, there's this program called the Chaplain Candidate Program. You can go in as an officer, as a second lieutenant. They will pay for your master's degrees. They will forgive your loan. And then you have to serve in the military as an officer. It's like, sign me up. What else am I going to do with a bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
So while I was in the way shack, I started stapling these trucks to logs, and I would do all my assignments in between log trucks, staple them.
Yep.
So I put myself through 3 years of college just there in the way shack. And so I thought, how can I, lack of better words, pimp my resume to use this military chaplaincy to become a counselor? So I got into the Oregon State counseling program for a master's degree using my chaplaincy. Essentially, I said, hey, look, I'm a military chaplain. Now I want to expand and really help people. So one side story to this, there's probably 2 important pieces to know about this. I was diagnosed with PTSD right around the time my wife stepped out on me, that summer of hell.
Oh, yeah.
I was diagnosed with PTSD during that time because, as Besser van der Kolk says, and the body keeps a score, Jesus might be in your bones. Jesus might be in your heart, but your grandfather's in your bones.
Yeah.
So I had all this trauma built up. my body remembered the trauma that was stored within me with
Yep.
that A score. And so I had to start working that out. And so I started focusing on my diet, got in the ketogenic diet, kept on working out, doing CrossFit workouts, doing bike rides, and I started working on my body. And during this time, during this personal mission statement time, I would go on these 10-mile runs. And during these 10-mile runs, I would have this vision of building this center. In my mind, it would be the mind, body, spirit center where
Oh,
people would come and they would get physical, spiritual, and mental health. And it was like God was putting his finger on me. This isn't audible or anything, but it was like he was putting his finger on me and said, you have to become that. You're not going to
mm.
create it. You need to become that.
Oh,
And so that's when I was like, okay, how do I become it? I'll get a master's in divinity. I'll learn all about the spiritual life I can. Devote myself to prayer, devote myself to meditation. I'm going to throw myself in the spiritual life. I'm going to devote myself to the physical life, crossfitting, diet, exercise,
yep.
being rigid there. And then what was the last check mark?
Mind.
Mind. Yep. So I was like, now I'm going to get a master's
Yep.
in counseling. So I really believe that God was saying, in order for you to heal through PTSD, you need to develop all three parts of you: your mind, your body, your spirit. And so I put myself through school so I could learn that. And I started testing myself and started basically doing everything I do now in therapy. I started with patient zero myself.
Yep.
I started with myself in all my modalities, all the interventions. I started working on myself before I started helping kids with it, at-risk youth,
Got you.
veterans, yeah, and then now first responders.
That's it. Okay. That's very interesting. You bring that up because that strikes me as a hugely important point. Because look, I'm very suspicious of people who want to help people.
Yep.
You understand what I
I know
mean?
exactly what you mean.
And so I'm like, okay, what exactly qualifies you to help people? And that's so important because that's just what you just said it. Project number one is you, and it sort of talks about, like, for you, that's your project number one was you. And then earlier you were talking about one of the three pillars to find for these mentors was basically embodying the what's a good way of saying it? What did you call it?
Yeah, living out.
Living out.
Yep.
So
living out
that
your
was
belief
one.
system.
I mean, that strikes me something hugely important is that, like, what you preach and what you live out have to be the same thing. And I'm kind of I'm kind of a suspicious character, and that's important for me. Like, okay, look, and this is a terrible thing to say, really, but it's like you're talking to somebody and they say how something should be looked at, and I'm always tempted to go, all right, well, fair enough. If I look at it this way, will my life become like your life? Because I don't want your life,
Right. Yep.
and that's, like, again, it's an awful thing to say, really, because it's not, in one way, it's not fair to
Yep.
some extent, but
As Dave Ramsey says, if you want to be a rich person, do what rich people do.
yeah,
Right.
right, it's the same idea as that.
No, therapists, it's remarkable how many unhealthy therapists there are. Therapists that their marriages are falling apart,
Yeah,
20, 30, 40 pounds overweight.
it's not good.
They don't, my wife has been in conversations, Zoom meetings where a therapist was on and she was talking about the benefits of meditation and how she assigns it to her clients. And my wife or somebody in the Zoom meeting said, "Oh, do you do that yourself?" "Oh, no, I don't meditate." It's that
Are
kind
you
of stuff.
kidding me?
No.
That's sad.
Where'd that quote come from? Physician, heal thyself, or drink your own medicine.
I don't know.
Maybe it's Galen, or maybe it's from the Bible, but I think that's what we're talking about. You got to drink your own medicine.
Yes. I mean, I'm very much an admirer of people who do that.
Yeah.
Very
I
much.
had to out of necessity.
Yeah.
I really did. There was no other option. I wasn't going to give up to PTSD. I wasn't going to give up to depression. I wasn't going to surrender. So
Yeah.
it started with my diet. That's where it all started with.
That is so interesting. So because for me, hearing your story, I grew up in relative privilege, and my sense that it's important to drink your own medicine has been a completely different journey.
Mm.
But it strikes me as extremely important. I don't think I have anything to offer anybody until I know I'm embodying what I believe.
Yeah.
So listen, let's take a quick break,
All right.
and then we'll maybe get into some more of this other stuff,
All right.
Hemi-Sync, and what was the other thing we wanted to talk about? I forget. But anyway, yeah, let's take a quick
All right.
break.
Sounds good.
All right, Skyler, we're back from the break. So
All
I
right.
think where we were in your story is we were talking about you being a military chaplain.
Mhm.
So tell me about being a military chaplain
Yeah.
as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So, military chaplaincy, the root of it is based in this concept of presence, the ministry of presence. So you are with people in life, you're with people with death, you're with people in marriage, baptisms. It's really the ministry of presence. So it's learning how to be present with people, for good, for bad, for indifferent. And so I was attached to an infantry unit in Oregon, the 186, and they were deployed multiple times. They're part of the 41st Brigade, which are the Jungleers. So they have a very rich history in active duty, or not active duty work, just active combat. So oftentimes we think about National Guards, people just kind of sitting back, chilling, gaining weight or whatever. Not
Yeah.
these guys. These are real soldiers. I have a lot of credit for them. So I was an infantry chaplain, so that's why I started. And my unique task was to help people heal from moral injuries, from PTSD, and from there's a term for it. It's not moral wounds, not moral. Yeah, moral injury. It's essentially when you're on duty and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it still leaves a scar on you.
Oh,
And
like for example, if all of a sudden a kid is carrying a rocket launcher and you have to
that's
take
exactly
care
right.
of problems.
Yep, that's exactly right. So here I am with somebody with traumatic background for myself, like I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrestling with my own diagnosis of PTSD, and I'm charged with the unique task of helping soldiers recover from
Interesting.
PTSD. And so, talking about drinking your own medicine,
Yes.
I was introduced to a document, and it's called the Gateway Assessment and Analysis by Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McConnell. Wayne McConnell, and he was part of the DoD. I believe he was a CIA operative, and he was tasked by the CIA to do an assessment of this gateway technology. And if you read if you read this paper, and I hope you
I have.
maybe you have read
Yes,
it.
I have
Okay,
read it.
all right. So I hope you maybe put it as a PDF because it's free. You can go on like archive.gov and
I'll
look it up,
definitely,
or
if I,
archive.org. Yep, it's
I'll
there.
put it. I'll put a link to it
Yeah.
in the description of this video.
So
That thing is fascinating. Go on.
it is. It struck me. It gripped me actually. It was one of those papers that first of all, it's very well done.
I think
It's
so.
very philosophical. It has a lot of physics
Yes.
undertone. He talks about Istok Bentov. I had to look up who's Istok
Yes.
Bentov, Chasing the Wild Pendulum. Talks about consciousness
Yep.
studies. So I'm reading this going, okay, so if this is true, if this paper is true, which there's no reason why somebody, a lieutenant colonel tasked by the DoD to give an assessment, wouldn't give accurate assessment. He has no benefit in that.
Yeah. Right. He has no right. Exactly.
Right. So your superior officer saying, "Hey, I want you to go to this place called the Monroe Institute. I
Yep.
want you to do an analysis and come back."
Yep.
So this paper is old. By the
Yes.
time it's in my hands, I think that the paper is 1980s.
I think so.
83 or 89.
Yeah, it's way back there, which fascinated me. We haven't heard more about it. But anyway.
So I get my hands on this technology, and I'm tasked to help soldiers go through PTSD, moral injury, and I read this paper, and I'm just fascinated, going, maybe this will help me.
Yep.
That was kind of
Yep.
my first thought. Maybe this will help
Help
me.
you.
Help
Yeah.
me. Not help
Yeah.
me necessarily help the soldiers,
Right.
but
Right.
help me. That was where my very first thought was.
Yes.
And so I learned about meditation through Hemi-Sync. Now, there's for your listeners who might be evangelical, conservative Christians,
Yep.
there's a lot to discuss just on that topic of Hemi-Sync
There is.
and meditation and how can one justify meditation with the Christian
Yes.
life. So
I would.
we can get to it if you want to
Yep.
get that, but I can tell you that the fruit of meditation for me, for myself, was phenomenal. I was having clarity of mind. I was having self control. I was able to have distance from my strong overreactions to thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I could have clarity. And so I was really excited to help other soldiers with this. And I
Yeah.
was kind of became a fanatic and try to tell everybody I knew,
Yep.
anyone that would listen. I would
Yep.
kind of shout from the rooftops, like,
Yep.
hey, have you
Look, give this a
considered
go.
this technology? And I was given there are 8 waves. So how
Yep.
Hemi-Sync's broken down, there are 8 waves, and each wave has a different focus state. And each focus state has, I like to think about it like this. Actually, I think in the paper, Lieutenant Colonel McConnell says this. He says, you can take a light and you can light up a whole room with it. That's consciousness in the sense of general consciousness. Right now, C1 consciousness, as Robert Monroe would say, our sight, taste, touch, hearing is all fully
Yep.
functioning, right?
Yep.
But you can take that same light and you can make it into a laser beam. And so my light was flickering. My light was damaged. It had a little grime
Yep.
on it. It had a little rust. It wasn't working very good just because of the cards I was dealt.
Yep. Yep.
I had not harmed my body or done anything morally like I shouldn't say not morally wrong because I am a sinner. I was a sinner. I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
am. But I mean, I hadn't purposefully traumatized myself. I'll say that.
Gotcha. Yep.
But
Yep.
but because of the childhood I had, I
Yes.
just was dealt those cards. Well, I was maybe for the first time in my life able to take that light and put it into a laser beam, and I had clarity of thought, and I had
Mm.
clarity of mind, and my body was at ease, and I had peace. And so these different focus states, there's focus state 10, where your mind is fully awake, but your body's fully asleep. There's focus state 12, which is an expanded state awareness. There's focus state 15, which is a place of no time, no thing, no place. It's a place of creation and manifestation. It's like the void.
Mm.
And it's just like tranquil nothingness. And all these focus states have these waves. So there's 8 waves. So I started just giving them away to anybody. I just put them on a Google Drive, and I've
Yep.
just asked people, say, "Hey, do you want to try this out? Do you want to try this out?" And I was
Yep.
giving it to soldiers. And at that time, I started working as a school counselor with at-risk youth. And with at-risk youth, I started doing mindfulness meditations, simple uh, dipping their toes in. I wouldn't give them the Hemi-Sync tapes because I thought it was like kind of too powerful,
Yeah. Yeah.
like giving a Ferrari to a teenager. Not a good
Yeah.
idea.
Right. Right.
But I would take what I was learning from it and say, "Hey, do you want to be at ease in your body? Let's do some mindfulness. Let's do some breathing techniques." And so I really got comfortable in my own body, and I got comfortable helping other people overcome post-traumatic stress disorder. And so from there, things got really interesting for me, and it all became from one student. So I was an at-risk youth counselor, Lebanon High School in Oregon, and a student came to me, and the student was clinically depressed, major depressive disorder, and resistant to treatment. So that means that he had tried SSRIs, serotonin
Oh yeah.
inhibitors, so such as like Zoloft, Prozac, those kind of things. He had
Yep.
tried those antidepressants, and he was resistant to them.
Oh.
And his teachers were coming to me, he's like, "This kid's low. Like this kid's really, really low. He needs to see someone."
Yep.
So I started working with them, not really going anywhere, nothing. Then he comes to my office, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, just clean as a whistle, clear as a whistle, never seen like talk about baseline. His baseline was very different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Tell me what's going on, you know?" And
Yep.
he said, "Well, I did this thing called Molly." and I had no idea
Uh-oh.
what Molly meant. And I'm just like, okay, okay. So I listened to a story or whatever, and he leaves the office, and I just get on Google. It's like,
What's
what is
Molly?
Molly? And then comes to find out that's MDMA. It's a street drug. It's the street name
Yep.
for a drug, MDMA.
Yep.
And in my research, I find out, oh, they're doing MDMA research in Portland, Oregon, right up the street from
Yep.
me. Interesting. And then that got me to read Michael Pollan's book called How to Change Your Mind. And I started all of a sudden seeing this new branch that I'd never known before through a student, which is ironic because
Yeah.
legally, if he's doing something dangerous to himself, I need to report him to his parents. I
Right.
need to make sure that officials know that and make sure that he's taken care of. And so as I did research for this student, I started learning about psychedelics, and I started learning about ayahuasca. I started learning about
Yep.
MDMA, and I started seeing this huge research that was happening at Johns Hopkins University. And for somebody who deeply suffered past tense from PTSD, and was helping soldiers through that, and was helping students through that, all of a sudden there was like this different modality that kind of came and sat on my lap. So at one point, I think my wife laughed at me when I was telling this story recently. I read 38 books and or articles within 3 months on this subject.
Yep.
And it all started from Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind. And that got me really excited about, okay, what are different modalities to help PTSD? How can we help veterans? How can we help
Yep.
those first responders overcome some of the tragedy that they've had happen to them? So, Dr. Gentry, he writes a book about first responders, and he talks about how no one comes out of that profession without scars.
Right.
You're
Right.
you're going to serve your country, you're going to serve your community, you're going to intentionally expose yourself to suicide, to infant mortality, to death,
Very
to getting
traumatic
shot
stuff.
at. And yet those people have this modality that they're not able to access in most states. They have ibogaine treatment in Texas.
Yeah.
Great breakthrough there. They have some stuff going on at Johns Hopkins University.
Yep.
That's great. But for most states, our law enforcement is completely barred from a modality that could really help them. And so my eyes got open to because it all fits in this concept of consciousness studies. It fits into the concept of meditation. It's like a missing piece that is part of the bigger puzzle of holistic health and holistic healing.
Yep.
So I'm a practitioner in South Dakota, therapist, South Dakota. I can't use it, won't be able to use it. It's illegal. It's not like
Yep.
something I'm prescribing to my
Yep.
clients.
Yep.
But I know that this modality is out there,
Mhm.
and it's like this fourth modality that just our first responders don't have access to, and it's kind of tragic.
Yes. Why? Okay, I've got a lot of questions about
Yeah.
this. The research on this stuff was abandoned in like the 60s.
That's right.
Why? Do you have any idea?
I'm
Like, was
not
it?
I'm
was it-
not the greatest historian. I believe that there was what they call like the war on drugs, and I
Yeah.
believe that LSD, psilocybin, and psychedelics got reclassified, and they got classified not as a type 1, but higher up the chain, whether that's a class 2 or a class 3 controlled substance. But the
see.
reason why behind it, some have postulated that because of the 60s movement and because the radical new beliefs that were coming out of that,
Mhm.
that the government didn't want people's mind to expand. They didn't want that openness, and so they wanted to close it down. I've heard some people.
I've heard that too, and I don't ever like to just assume stuff like that, but like, and like you said, I mean, it's kind of sad. I mean, like we've got an epidemic of veterans who are we're losing veterans life left, right, and we're losing veterans left, right, and center to suicide, and there's help for them. And if you don't believe it, watch the Sean Ryan show. I mean, he's got a lot of guys on there who've had their lives transformed from this stuff. But Okay.
And I would like to add one thing to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think veterans have a lot of spotlight on them, as they should. They're
Yeah.
serving our country.
Yeah.
I think first responders
That's
are the
interesting. I hadn't thought
demographic
about
that
that.
are not talked about as much because they're still in uniform, but they're
Yeah.
still constantly
Yes.
exposed to trauma.
I
And
actually,
so I feel like that is the demographic that is kind of lost and forgotten. I've heard it said that a police officer or a sheriff will see much more combat like injuries and death in their tenure than somebody actively in combat.
the average person in
Yeah,
military
yeah,
combat.
and that's here on our streets.
That's actually a fair objection because that's boy howdy. That reminds me because I know it's something I hadn't considered a lot. I'm aware that this is the deal. I mean, so I moved here from Georgia, and so a lot of my friends were on the volunteer fire department.
Hmm.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
while we were living there, another guy I grew up with, a couple years older than me, got himself in a horrific accident on a farm. He messed around and got himself hung up in a trencher. Without going into any details, or how, but okay, long story short, he ended up having all of the skin yanked off the whole front of his one leg. And then the guys who responded to this were his friends. And he was in there. He was in it, like, so the trencher was down. He was in the trench, and his foot and his whole self was stuck. There's the trencher bar, and then there's a shield, kind of a shield piece on the top of the trencher bar, and he was in between there. And that there's only this much room in there. And that thing just anyway. The guy who was with got the thing stopped. Anyway, so as you can imagine, and it was a very good friend of his was helping him on the job. And so there was anyway, it was a bad deal. And they all pretty jacked up from that situation. Now, that's not an example of he wasn't a victim of malevolence.
Right.
Even.
Right.
This was just an accident. And they found that sort of thing traumatic. And so
Yeah.
and this stuff is happening a lot. And now that you're bringing it up, I hadn't really considered this, that our first responders in America are probably in some state of neglect as well.
Absolutely.
That's very interesting.
Absolutely. Yep. What you'll find in a lot of first responder communities are piles and piles of nicotine pouches, caffeine,
Yep.
and alcohol.
Yep.
Yep. They're coping to get up, they're coping to get down, they're coping for sleep. And because they're
medicated.
Yeah, they're constantly bombarded with trauma. They signed up for that. And so as a society, as a culture, it's our responsibility to protect them. And so a lot of people will be, oh, well, we're not going to use drugs. So let's just pause that whole conversation on psychedelics. Interestingly, you were talking about the ban of psychedelics and kind of this, the bar of research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's this guy who developed holotropic breath work. Stanislav Grof is his name. And when everything went down underground, he thought, okay, how can I find very, very similar benefits through using breath work?
Yes.
And so the beautiful thing is there are a lot of things that first responders can do. There are a lot of things. So if psychedelics are barred for right now, that's okay.
There's other ways.
There's breath works, there's box breathing, there's belly breathing, there's the 5-4-3-2-1 method, there's learning to relax their pelvic floor as they go into combat, or as if they're about to breach a door or something, to learn how to relax their pelvic floor because their body doesn't categorize that as a traumatic event if they can keep themselves relaxed.
I see.
And then there's Hemi-Sync. And it's not just Hemi-Sync, it's meditation. So meditation, one of the great benefits to it is that you get perspective on your emotions. Your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, actions, words, they don't control you. You control them. And you can start observing them objectively. And so somebody who has PTSD, very common side effect is sleep, lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Hemi-Sync, focus 10. Your mind is fully awake and your body's fully asleep. It's very relaxing.
Yes.
Just that one tool can really, really help a first responder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me about this Hemi-Sync just a little bit.
Mhm.
Like, so I've done. Okay, I don't want to hijack your story here, but so you talked about earlier on a couple weeks ago, or maybe been a month ago. You introduced me to the idea of Hemi-Sync, and you
Yeah.
sent me the OneDrive or the Google Drive file,
Yep.
and I was like, oh, interesting, and I looked at it and I read some of the stuff. I was like, oh, this is interesting, but I didn't commit. All right, and then I don't know why. I forget why why we talked about it again. But anyway, you ended up sending me some more stuff on that thing, and I ended up reading that document that you talked about that was produced by um the document that was made because of the commission by the CIA. And that was the thing. That's the thing that sort of convinced me. Look, I got to give this a go. There's something about the fact that okay, this drug world, it's all airy, can be really airy fairy.
Yep.
It's like I'm like, oh, interesting, but I unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say it's unfortunately, but I am a very rational person. It's like, okay, this could be, but how do I can't make any sense of how it's
Yep.
working.
Yep.
The fact that in that document he ties it to physics, and he gives an actual like in-depth explanation of how this stuff potentially might be working.
Yeah.
And it definitely got my mind going. And so that was sort of the thing that sold me on it. And I was like, oh, this is interesting because here is actually a way to tie, because like you were talking about with the first responders, there's a resistance to it.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who are like rational people, especially in this sort of, we're kind of on the downward slant of this big new atheist thing. Very, very rational, whatever, which is so fascinating to me because who's one of the who's the new age? We got one of these new age atheists who's very into meditation. What's his name?
There's a lot.
He debated Jordan Peterson. Really early on, like back. Oh my stars! What is his name? The Moral Landscape. That's his book. Oh my! It's just anyway, but it's just so fascinating to me because he's very much a rationalist person, yet he meditates. Anyway, but anyway, but we have a lot of rationalists who just can't buy into this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the fact is that there are bridges being made here, and I don't know. I'm very fascinated by it, and I'm very interested into sort of digging into this more. But so all this to say, I'm very curious if you can you explain to me what happens for you or in one of the, so I'm sure you have experiences where people have used this and it's transformed their lives, and you've done it too. Can you explain to me sort of in detail what it's like?
Yeah.
To go through one of these Hemi-Sync experiences?
Just personal experience, not the science behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, like what when you're in here, what are you experiencing?
Yeah. So first of all, it's a audio frequency. It's called a binaural beat. So you have a frequency in your left ear and a frequency in your right ear, and your brain makes up a third pattern. So they're offset. So let's say one set at 100 hertz, one set at 103 hertz, then your brain is going to resonate at 3 hertz. So that's the background behind it. So you have these headphones on, you set aside 30 to 40 minutes in a dark, quiet room, uninterrupted, and it begins very 1970s sci-fi sounding.
It does that.
It was created by Robert Monroe. He patented the technology in the 70s.
Is that his voice in there?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's the founder of the Monroe Institute. So Uh, he was a radio tycoon and he owned radio stations. He's very wealthy. And he threw all of his weight and all of his time and resources into the Monroe Institute to figure out to really patent this technology so other people can have these experiences. So you put on the headphones and you start learning a series of exercises. It's very active minded. So that's the very first thing that I work with a lot of Christians, as I should. I'm happy. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
happy to work with Christians in my work. And one of the very first things they say is, "Well, I don't want to open myself up." That's a very first objection I hear. So I say, "What do you mean by open myself up?" Well, I don't want to be an empty vessel that just opens their mind up and allows stuff to come in.
Yeah, I got to treat my body like a temple.
Yep, that sounds to me like transcendental meditation to me. Transcendental meditation is emptying one's mind. This is not emptying one's mind. It is very, very active. If you're
Yeah.
not in step, phase by phase, you will conk out and fall asleep, or you'll not know what you're doing because
Right.
you have to stay with it. Going back to that light analogy, it's taking a bright light and you are learning how to have a laser locked focus. So the very first step is that you learn what's called an energy conversion box. So you create a mental construct in your mind. It can be any shape, any color. Some people get creative with it. Some people do lock boxes, gun safe.
Yep.
I have one person that does a U-Haul. He pictures a U-Haul truck and he puts stuff in a
Yep.
U-Haul. Doesn't matter what it is. But it's a mental construct. Did you create one?
Yes.
Do you want to describe what yours looks
So
like?
mine because I'm very much a rational person. Mine isn't. I don't visualize it so much as it's something that I know is there,
Mm-hmm.
and it is. I think mine was more of like a chest, a wood box.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Lana's got this big old. Lana's got this big old wood chest, and for some reason that sort of came to mind.
Yeah.
And it's sort of in. I guess I do sort of visualize it. Visualize it. It sits in this thought bubble. Anyway, that's my conversion box.
Yeah. So that's the very first step. You learn to create a mental construct, energy conversion box. And the design behind it is to place any worries, distractions, or concerns into that box. Just stop there. Just stop there. How many people need to learn how to put their worries, distractions, and concerns away so they can fully focus on what they're doing?
I mean, that like letting go of the anxieties is extremely difficult
Yes.
for
Yes.
a lot of people.
So when I started, I used to open up that box. I would put all my worries, distractions, or concerns into. It would go into exercise 2. Then it would go to 3, 4, 5. I would have to open that box up again and just keep on doing it.
Keep dumping.
I would
stuff
just
in there.
keep on doing
see.
it. I would sometimes spend 30 to 40 minutes. That's all I would do. I would just open up the box and just put
Getting rid of
worries,
anxiety.
distractions, or concerns. Yeah, you can call it anxiety if you want. It's just
Or where?
yeah,
sorry.
right. No, that's fine. Yeah, they were intrusive thoughts that I was in control of. However you want to define that. And so I had to practice that over and over and over. That skill alone is golden. Just that alone. And it is not passive. So that's the first objective I hear from Christians say, well, I'm not going to open myself up and let some demon come in me. I say, you're not opening yourself up. It might be the most focused you've been in your life outside of prayer.
Arguably,
Mhm.
anxieties are fears.
Yes.
And fears are not Christian
Yes.
by definition.
I believe in 1 Timothy, it said, you have not been given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control.
That's one
And
of
so
my.
I actually think about
Yep.
these exercises as developing power, love, and self-control.
Yes.
And so you brought up fear. That was my first barrier through the whole process. I had session after session after session of fear that I had to relinquish and let go.
Interesting.
I feared the demonic.
Yeah.
I feared being isolated. I feared closing my eyes and someone maybe attacking me, not attacking me. I feared myself, I think. So I had to go through a lot of barriers of fear and I had to go through racing thoughts. So energy conversion box, step 1. Step 2, resonant tuning. What's that? It's literally letting God's light in, it's letting goodness in and letting negativity out. It's that simple. You're bringing light in, you're thinking about what is good, what is lovely, what is purposeful. Is that Philippians? Whatever is good, whatever is lovely, whatever is worthy of praise. If there's anything like this, think on these
Yes.
things.
Yep.
And that's what you're doing. You're bringing in positivity, and then you are humming out, you are letting out all negativity outside
Yep.
of you. Step 2. Step 3, and this is the next step I talk to Christians about it not being an empty vessel where something can attack you. Step 3, you literally create a resonant energy balloon. You create a force field around you. You create a protection mechanism around you. So when I do it, I picture the Holy Spirit surrounding me, and I invite the Holy Spirit into my practice, and I say, protect me, guard me, and surround me. And so
Yep.
you are creating what he calls a resonant energy balloon. It's a force field around you. It's a
Yep.
protection
Yep.
layer. And so that's another thing, that this is why it's different from psychedelics. I hear when somebody takes psychedelics, it's very immediate, it's very fast, it's instantaneous,
Yep.
it's right now. This is not at all. It's very gentle. You have to
Right.
focus your mind. There are these there are these steps that are built in to protect you. They're built-in protection
Yep.
steps.
Yep.
And then after you create the resonant energy balloon, you say an affirmation. He suggests an affirmation that starts with, I am more than my physical body because I am more than physical matter. What Christian can't agree with that? That we are more than our
Yep.
physical body, that we have a spirit, that we have a soul, we have something eternal in us. If you've listened to any near-death experiences where people have left their body, it's very common that people will see God, see angels, see their loved ones, and then come back in their body. What are they in?
Right.
They're in the place of spirit, in the place of
Yep.
soul, something that's never going to be destroyed. So that's the affirmation. And then I just say a prayer. I say something along the lines of, God, may you be with me during this practice. I invite anything of you, of your angel, of your spirit to help me in this. I desire to grow, develop, and to be a better man for my family, for my community, and those around me. Anything that's negative or of the evil one or of evil spirits, it's not allowed in this practice. That's it. Very simple. So you can say your
Yep.
own prayer however you want.
Yep.
And then after that, you learn more and more steps. So it just keeps on developing over and over, and you develop all these different tools. And you can develop so many tool sets that you can use in real life.
So this is interesting you bringing this
Yeah.
up because
Yeah.
it's giving a Christian sort of parallel. I don't know if parallel. I wouldn't even know if it's a parallel because I would argue it is the same thing. Because it's so interesting because once you get past the first exercises, there's a even on the very first one, there's a calm.
Yeah.
And it's a very focused calm. It doesn't it's hard to explain, but it is a very calm. Like there's nothing bombarding.
Yeah.
And it's very free.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because it's not something like I'm admitting some stuff here. This isn't something I experience a lot on a day-to-day basis.
That's the seat of the spirit. That's
Right.
what I believe that calm is you experiencing your soul, you experiencing your spirit. You are in the seat of spirit or soul.
So
Yeah.
when you are in that state of peace, what's happening? Like as far as like, if you had to explain it, if you had
Yeah.
to describe
Yeah.
what's happening to the best of your ability, what's happening like for you maybe specifically
Yeah.
when you're in that space?
Focus 10, my body is completely asleep and my mind's fully awake. So focus 10, I feel as though like stage 1 of sleep, like as you're falling asleep at nighttime and your
Yes.
body's just really relaxed
Yes.
and it's really heavy bodied. That's focus 10 for me. Focus 12 is an expanded state of awareness. So focus 12, I can do all sorts of stuff in my mind. And this is what I teach my clients. I can go back to the past. I can heal past traumas. I can look at strong emotion reactions. I can look at hurts. I can look at pains. I can project what I want to happen in the next month or the next year. It's called 1-month patterning, 12-month patterning. My mind, it feels though it's expanding. I've never taken Ritalin in my life, but I imagine that's what people on
Oh
Ritalin
yeah,
feel like. It's
yeah.
just like I'm just firing. I think that there's this movie called Salt. I don't think I've ever seen it, but it has like Angelina Jolie or whatever. But it's like this power mind. You take this substance, and your mind is just super powerful. That's essentially what I feel like in Focus 12. That I am able to expand my consciousness. So the word consciousness is just my awareness to include my thoughts, feelings, emotions, and I have absolute control of all of them. And I can start planning and goal setting.
So this is
That's Focus
okay.
12.
This is where Hemi-Sync starts to intersect with mission.
Yes,
Or
absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Get yourself in Focus 12, go to 1-month patterning and envision exactly what you want your next month to unfold like. Get yourself in Focus 12 and do a 12-month patterning and look at your year. How do you want your year to play out? And it's visualization. It's very, very heavy visual for me. I can see it. I can feel it. I can really sit in that space. Like I'm in a 3D, Google set or
oh yeah,
whatever.
one of these
Yeah.
virtual
Yeah,
reality
something like that,
deals. Yeah.
but it's just in my mind. And so that's Focus 12. And then I'll leave you with the last one, is Focus 15. And that is, have you seen Stranger Things?
No,
Okay,
unfortunately not.
so viewers, if people have seen Stranger Things, 11, she's the main character. She goes in this deprivation chamber, and when she goes in this deprivation chamber, when she comes to, it's just this black space. That's what I experience every time in Focus 15. It's nothing. No thoughts, no feelings. I can't feel my body. I can't. I've done deprivation chambers before, like
yeah,
floats or whatever.
float tanks.
Yeah, it's just I'm there.
Okay, what's the difference?
It's not dark. It's not scary. It's
Explain
not
the
good.
difference
Just
between
I'm
Focus
just there.
15 and Focus 10.
Oh, Focus 10 is very bodily. I can still feel my body, but it's heavy. Focus 15,
Feel nothing. It's
nothing.
just
I'm
consciousness.
just there. Yeah,
Or I don't know if just consciousness. That's not the right word either.
I'm just present.
Just presence.
I
So
think
there's only
it's-
3?
yeah. No, there's more.
Oh, okay.
There's Focus 21, and there's Focus all the way up to Focus 28. I'll only share Focus 27. Just it's called your special place. And growing up in Oregon, I love the Oregon coast. There's one place you can really surf on the Oregon coast out of the whole
Okay.
coast because it's rocky.
Okay.
It's called Otter Crest, and that's where me and my wife would spend our anniversaries and time.
Okay.
So I can go to Focus 27. I can walk down those steps. I can feel the sand beneath my feet. I can sit there on the Oregon coast, and I can just I can be in that spot. And then from there, Focus 27, you go to Wave 8, which is Focus 28, and there's a myriad of possibilities. I would argue if somebody were to take this up and be really serious and read the CIA's document on
Yeah.
this, it's Focus 28 where there's unlimited possibility.
I was wondering, like, is Focus 28? That's the top one
Yeah, that they released.
that they released.
Yeah,
But at the Monroe Institute, they've got more.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about the extreme limits of Hemi-Sync,
So
or don't you know
I
enough
don't.
about it?
I'll say it this way. This is what I say. With my first responder clients,
Yes.
and when people come in with marital issue, depression, anxiety, that the normal state of suffering,
Yes.
I will lead them up to Focus 15, and they're usually happy as clams.
Okay.
And I say that's all we're going to talk about.
Yep.
For the rare client who is intrigued, or they come to me and they have a look in their eyes and they go, "Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I want more," I will say, well, I'm not going to assign this therapeutically to you because
Okay.
it has no therapeutic benefit.
Okay.
I'm not going to say
Right.
this is going to help your treatment, but there are focus states from 21 to 28. If you want to do that on your own entertainment, that's fine, but I'm not going to put it part of your treatment plan.
It's not part of what we're doing
Yeah,
professionally. Right.
right. So there are a couple clients that have that.
Okay.
They want it, and so I will give them the CIA document. I'll give them those, and then I say that's not part of your treatment, but explore if you'd like.
Because it's the upper limits of this that is fascinating, and because the reason the CIA was interested in it partly was for what was the name of the operation where they
It's called Project Stargate.
Project Stargate.
So
that's
if somebody wants to dive into this background,
Yep.
I would recommend looking up Joe McGonigal. He has I want to say it's 4 to 6 hour interview with Sean Ryan.
Right.
He is patient 0.
Yep.
For Project Stargate. That'd be a good one to look at. Robert Monroe's book, Journeys Out of the Body. That is the classic on the OOB experience. It is basically his work that did that. That's when the government came in and said, "Hey, can we militarize this and kind of spy on our neighbors, and what kind of use cases can we use for this?" So I never encourage an outer body experience. I never encourage remote viewing because I just can't. I still to this day, using this technology all this time, I can't find a healthy use case for that for mental, physical, and spiritual health.
For what you're trying to do.
If somebody can show that to me, say this can actually help, then I'm open to it. But I have not found a use case that helps their mind, body, or spirit.
Why do you think and maybe we should, okay, we'll come back to this.
Okay.
We'll come back to, because I'm very curious about why it's possible even. But anyway, I want to know.
Yeah.
So let's go back to, we were talking about how you got into this, because it was when you were, well, you still are, but military chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about any of the experiences? Like, can you talk about any of the manifestations in patients' lives, like the power that has? Can you give any?
Yeah.
Can you talk about
I'll
that?
I'll give one. Comes to mind. Soldier, 23 years old, sexually assaulted while in uniform.
Oh my.
Interestingly, their unit allowed them to be in civilian clothing on Fridays. Now, there's a reason I bring all this up. So the soldier was sexually assaulted on a Friday in civilian clothing. When I met the soldier, they couldn't see a blue truck without going into complete panic. They couldn't wear civilian clothes on Fridays without going to complete panic. They couldn't go to the gym, and they couldn't go to a certain office. 4 barriers, because they all were directly linked to the sexual assault. They were diagnosed with a DSM-7 or DSM-6 with severe PTSD. So there's a checklist. You just ask them questions. Probably all of them, maybe 1 or 2 boxes not. Severe PTSD. This soldier was committed. They were fierce. They wanted healing, and this should never happen to them, and they wanted their career back. It affected their career and everything. And so they committed to Hemi-Sync almost day 1. Right when I said, "Hey, I have this technology. I've been using it for other soldiers. What do you think about this?" They're like, "Yep, sign me up. Let's go." And they were able to go back and what I call repattern, reheal, and rewire those events. So when you are able to actively go back in your past and choose the outcome and choose how you respond and start rewiring those patterns, has a huge effect on the present. And when you do that in the present over and over and over, it has a huge effect on the future. So they committed to focus 10. They couldn't sleep, nightmares, night terrors. And they came, I don't know how many sessions, but they're like, "I got a good night's sleep." So it's like, check, let's go. And then eventually when they got into focus 12, That's when that expanded state of awareness was there. They're able to go back and start repatterning and rewiring some of this past trauma. There's one exercise in particular that I thought was really fascinating. So you're stuffing all this stuff in this box. Okay. So
Yeah.
warning, if anyone tries this stuff, you're stuffing all this stuff in this box for exercise after exercise after
Yeah.
exercise. Eventually, Robert Monroe says, go to your box. And you're like, what? And he says, open it up. So you open it up, and all of a sudden it says, tell me what strong emotions you have there. Tell me what fears you have there. And you actually start going through this very box that you thought you were just going to put away forever.
Yep.
So this in particular client, they were able to go through and do some of that work. And it was just profound. And so by the end, so met this this client, December, January, February, March, April, May, complete remission. They could wear civilian clothes on Fridays. They didn't care about blue trucks anymore, no triggering, had a great night's sleep, and they could work out and go in the office. Complete remission.
Interesting.
Yep. And we didn't have to get weird and do
Right.
out-of-body experiences and no
Yeah.
remote viewing. No,
Right.
it's just the power of hemispherical synchronization. When your left hemisphere, the logical, rational part of you, and your right hemisphere, the creative, dynamic, beauty part of you, synchronize at the same time, at the same frequency, you're able to do anything.
So okay, you work with the first responder community though.
Yeah.
And you talked about you deal with people who are sort of resistant to help.
Resistant to traditional counseling,
Oh,
talk therapy,
how
couch
do you get them
locked.
into your office?
A lot of it through how I brand. So my branding, if you look at my website, it's guys doing cold plunges,
Yep.
CrossFit, going on hikes.
Masculine.
I'm not wearing
stuff.
this. I'm wearing like a military, like cut off green shirt.
Yeah.
It's very intentional branding because that's who I want in my office. I want guys that their wives say, you need to go see a counselor. You need to go see a counselor. You need to go see a counselor. They go, I'm not going to go talk about my feelings and emotions.
Right.
I'm not going to sit down on a couch and cry myself, in front of somebody.
Yep.
So those are the guys I want. And so they go to our website or they go to the Facebook or they go to Twitter, how I have it set up. And they go, wait a second, this guy's doing therapy, but wait, they're hiking. They're doing CrossFit workouts. Like it's very masculine feeling.
Yep.
And that's all by design.
Can you so
Because
Can
I
you-
was one of them.
right, right.
That's the whole back. I was one of
Right.
them. So if you go back to my story, when I had PTSD and when I was going through those marital things, I didn't want help. No way, dude. I was an athlete. I was
Yeah.
a great student. I had my life together. I was strong. I feel like I'm a strong, resilient
strong
person. I'm not gonna go to some woman, sit on a couch and talk about my feelings. No way.
Yeah.
And so I created a therapy method called the Mind, Body, Spirit Protocol that I would want for myself if I was go back in time 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
So
Yeah.
because I'm sitting here imagining a guy who's just like, look, yeah, I'm a little effed up, but I'm all right.
Yep.
I'm okay. So and those guys are often just like, look, I don't need whatever. And so it's like, but so they okay, fair enough. They see your ad, and they're like, oh, these guys are actually doing some manly stuff. I can get behind this. But so I imagine though, at some point you have to address. At some point you have to address. This guy's probably got some issues, and how do
Yeah.
you break that barrier once you? But is it simply just a building a relationship with like doing the activities? You building a relationship, and that's kind of how it starts.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to answer that, but this is, I think, the best way to answer it. Therapeutic alliance is the number one indicator of success.
Got to trust you.
Yeah, the truth is, and this is hard for any therapist in the field to admit, the truth is it doesn't really matter what modalities you use, what interventions you use. When you do a cross-examination of all the modalities, whether you're Jungian, CBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, or you do kind of more non-traditional psychosomatic work, doesn't matter. It matters if you have a good therapeutic alliance. That's actually it.
Right.
So
You
what do I
just
do?
told
I do
told
what's
the
called
cheat code.
shoulder to shoulder therapy. So oftentimes, guys will come in first session, tell me your story. No judgment, just tell me your
Yeah.
story. And sometimes that is really therapeutic. Guys are like,
Oh
I've
boy.
never told my story from like childhood, adolescence, elementary school, all the way up to the present. I've never told that story. So that's first step. Second step, I'm like, all right, let's go throw some weighted plate carriers on and go for a hike. And we go for a hike. And I say,
Yep.
tell me about your dreams. Let's start future casting. And I get them to create a personal mission statement. So I try to just do shoulder to shoulder work with them. And I'm always trying to tell them, you are not the problem. I don't believe people have problems. I actually don't believe that. In my core, you are not the problem. The problem's the problem. So let's
Oh,
externalize the problem and figure out how to solve this together. So I'm never diagnosing. I don't diagnose. Very, very rarely I do.
yeah.
But because a diagnosis is saying you have a problem.
Yeah.
But what I say is, what is the problem? What's the external
Yeah.
issues you have? And let's externalize this and let's tackle this together. I do shoulder to shoulder work with them. So sometimes that means crossfitting. Sometimes that doesn't work for guys. Sometimes it means cold plunging. Sometimes that doesn't work. Often means breath work, means meditation, means getting out, moving their body in nature and getting after it. It's fun.
Yes,
It's
that's
fun.
cool. So
And I love it. And I love the work.
that's interesting. That thing what you said in the beginning, first session. Hey, tell me your story, or
Right.
and that's so interesting. You bring that up because
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I got inspired to do this, because I got a sense of how powerful that is to just have someone tell their story, because that can lead to other things. And I would argue, I don't advertise this I haven't till now advertised this podcast in the least. So it's got the viewership's low, but the highest view video that I have, or show that I have so far, is with Shannon.
Hmm.
And when we talked about, he just told me about moving here. That was the first half. And then the last back half was, so you've got always the surface stuff, like what happened, physically
Right.
happened.
Yep. Yep.
And then underlying all of that is another internal story, the story of the internal battles,
That's right.
of the relationships.
That's right.
And people, in my experience, people find that it breaks through barriers.
Yep.
For even me to hear someone's story, talk about, like, who's that guy? I always think about that big tattooed up guy on Sean Ryan. He was the first show that was like 6 hours.
Hmm.
Cody. Man, I hate that I can't remember people's names when I'm on here. But anyway, that was his story. Like, he was a professional operator.
Hmm.
And he told about that story. And in the last half or whatever, he started talking about the underlying stuff. And it just kind of breaks you, because you realize even the toughest dudes have the internal battles too.
That's right. That's right.
And anyway, but you're obviously
So
going a lot
you can do
further than that.
you can do the work of a therapist right there, Jordan. So that's it.
Well, at least break down the barrier.
Yeah, you start with the story, you externalize the problem, and then you work and you work and work, and you say, okay, now we're going to do shadow work, or we're going to go into the cave. And what that means is, now what's that external problem that you've externalized? How is that pointing back to you? How is that a mirror in your life?
Right.
And so Carl Jung.
Well, I was going to ask you about
big
that
fan
next.
of
Are
Carl
you
Jung.
familiar with Jung's work?
Yeah. Yep.
And because talking about this, and then I've been reading Jung again, been getting back into studying him quite a bit. I see a lot of parallels with I feel the parallels more than I can explain them.
Yep.
And so I wondered if you were, because I know you have been a bit of a consumer of Peterson's work.
Yep.
And that's how I got introduced to Jung. But anyway, that's very interesting though, because I know that there's a lot of resistance. Like, even the fact that we brought up Hemi-Sync on here, there's going to be resistance.
Mm-hmm.
People listening like
Yeah.
that. It's like,
You know what's interesting about that? I just want to address that because I thought about it too. And this is the first time I've publicly talked about Hemi-Sync. I do it a lot with my clients, but I haven't publicly talked about it. And this is something that if somebody is resistant to it and they've rolled their eyes and they haven't logged out already or crossed this off, here's the deal. Do you go into alpha, beta, and theta brain waves naturally?
Yes.
You need to answer that. Yep. Do you go into stage 1, 2, 3 sleep and then REM naturally? REM sleep naturally.
Yes.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
And all it's
So
using.
if you break it down to those simple elements, that's all it is. You are going to those brain waves, and you are going to those stages of sleep. That's it. And then you ask yourself, what's possible in REM? Look at Joseph, look at Daniel, look at Carl Jung's work with dream interpretation. That's all REM sleep.
Hold on a minute. You can't just pass over that. Joseph and Daniel. Talk about.
Yeah, they're dreams.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Joseph and Daniel both received dreams from the Lord during REM sleep. That's when we dream. Carl Jung believes that the subconscious comes to our conscious mind during dream work.
Right.
So what are you doing in focus 15? What are you doing in focus 12? Are you not simply putting your mind into REM where you're consciously awake, but your hemispheres are synchronizing in a theta brainwave state? That's all you're doing.
You're tuning into material that's in your mind that you're not consciously aware of.
It's already designed.
Yeah. It's not like you're creating anything in there. You're just, it's in there already, and you're just accessing it. And arguably, I mean, Jung said, everyone is living out their subconscious.
Yeah.
And it's better off if you at least know what it is, because you might be living a nightmare.
That's a great way to put it. And Carl Jung actually did a lot of work on Kundalini. So Kundalini is a bioelectric energy in the Eastern tradition. So in India, they call it Kundalini. In Japan, they call it Chi. In America, we call it bioelectric energy. It's all the same stuff. And so Jung did a lot of work on the Kundalini awakening experience. He has a whole treatise on it.
I'm not even familiar with this yet.
So when you read the CIA document, and you learn about resonant tuning and resonant energy balloon, and when you are wrapping yourself in this bubble, if you will, that's bioelectric energy. That's what people call the second body. That's this membrane that's right over us. When you hear about out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences, people enter into their second body. So Kundalini in India, they practice this. They harness this energy. Chi is the life force that people in China.
Is this the body that's entered when you? Oh, we don't want to talk about this now, but is this the body that's entered when you have an out-of-body experience? Or
1 Corinthians 13, Paul says, "In this body or out, I do not know." But I did go to the third heaven. I was caught up to the third heaven. That's the body I'm talking about.
There it is. That is interesting.
Yeah. Paul had an out-of-body experience. It's documented in scripture.
Yes.
I think it's 12. I think it's 1 Corinthians 12.
I don't know.
He talks about the thorn.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about. So something that's already exists, something that's already there, something our body already does during sleep.
Yeah.
And it's just technology to stimulate that, which already exists.
So those of you listening that have made it this far, that you're still a little resistant, there it is.
There it is.
Tell me, can you talk about what? Okay, you were in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Did all the stuff that you did there. What got you to South Dakota?
Yeah, so I was a counselor for at-risk youth, and I was very passionate about my job. We opened a alternative high school for at-risk youth in Oregon called Ralston Academy. It was to get The hardest kids, I'm talking kids in gangs, kids doing drugs, kids that their parents are incarcerated, to get them offline.
This is the Ralston University?
No, Ralston Academy.
Oh,
Yeah, Ralston
okay.
Academy in Oregon.
I didn't know
In
you were
Lebanon,
involved
Oregon.
with Ralston University. That's
Um,
fascinating.
Our whole agenda was get kids off of offline and in person. So we funded a whole school, whole building, hired teachers, got the hardest kids off computers in person. Timeline 2019. COVID hits, Oregon does a hard lockdown, puts all those kids right back on the computer. I basically lose it. And you can look up my name if you just type in Skyler Bascom articles. I'm writing articles against masks. I'm writing articles against social distancing. I'm actively advocating for getting these kids back into person. And I'm saying that's the very reason why we opened this academy, to get these kids back in person.
Right.
You don't know their home lives. You don't know that they don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have computers. You walk through their house, it's filth. Their parents are drunk on a couch. This was actively happening in my school. So I'm advocating, and then an event happened where I'm on the board at a church. I'm a sitting elder. I work at a junior high at this point, and our board decides to go maskless. This is like, you don't do that in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
So our whole church decides to go maskless. We're not going to enforce it. Well, I could be wrong, but I think we're the first church in Lynn County to do it in Oregon. We make that stance. I'm on the board. We're praying about it. We're like, this is the right decision. Well, this is the sad thing, man. On Wednesdays, I was working with a youth group.
Yeah.
I was just a volunteer. We were maskless, having fun, hanging out with teenagers like teenagers do. Thursday, mask on. Hi, kids. So all of a sudden, I felt like I was living a lie. I felt like I was living a double standard, where here I am on Wednesday being maskless, like, I don't care about COVID, like, it's no big deal.
So
and then Thursday, I was covering up and living a lie.
Well, so the school was still going.
So this is a year and a half later. I'm talking. We shut down for a year and a half online. We went online for a year and a half.
Okay.
So this is a year and a half later of this.
Okay.
Stuff. I'm advocating, like I say, I'm writing to the school board. I wrote to the superintendent so many times that he started flagging me. I went to the school board to talk. I wrote articles. Like I said, you can just look up Lebanon Local, and I talk about masking. I talk about the dangers of social distancing. This is in the throes of it. Finally, kids come back, and then we're masking. So first we went online for a year and a half. Finally, they come back masking. I'm at a church. I'm on the board. We decide not to mask, and then I feel like I'm living this double standard. So I tell my wife, like, I'm not gonna wear a mask. I'm just going to show up to school without a mask.
Yeah.
So I do. I get a letter from my supervisor that says, you have 15 minutes to defend yourself. Your license is being evaluated by the Oregon Department of Education and the Oregon Department of Health. They were threatening my license. I had 15 minutes to compose myself. That's what said. You had 15 minutes to compose yourself. Went back into the office, told them I'm not going to wear a mask. And I told them that I think the whole thing's a lie. About 45 minutes later, a police officer is at my door and arrests me in my office as a school counselor.
Oh my word.
Yep. So I get arrested in my own office. And so at that point, my wife was already wanting to go to Florida or South Dakota at that point. So that was kind of the camel that broke, or the straw that broke the camel's back. And then she was like, all right, there's this place called Rapid City, South Dakota. Look at these beautiful cliffs and Pactola Lake and Sylvan Lake. And so we packed up our bags, got our 4 kids and one in the womb. So 5 kiddos, and drove from Oregon to here to open up practice and to do chaplain work and to do pastoral work and
how was that, like finding a church, figuring out how to put your life together in South Dakota? Was that
just kind of
step
going
at
back?
a time?
Going back to that personal mission statement,
not really knowing anybody, and you just started looking around. Interesting.
Yeah.
What all are you doing here? I know
So
you've got the
yeah,
mind
yeah.
body spirit therapy
Yep. Hmm.
thing you're doing, but
Yep. So uh, therapist and mind body spirit therapy. So owner operator. It's great.
yeah,
I can really treat people how I think that they need to be treated in the clinical sense.
yeah,
I develop custom made treatment plans for guys that are resistant to PTSD
yeah.
or resistant to traditional therapy. So I'm doing that. Also, I'm an L1 CrossFit trainer, so I get to incorporate CrossFit workouts there. I'm working with Black Hills CrossFit, and I get a coach once in a while. It's pretty fun. So
Cool.
I coach a 1 hour class once in a while,
Yeah.
and a great community, awesome gym. I'm a chaplain at Monument Hospital, so I do
Okay.
about 20 hours a week of chaplain work.
I
And
didn't
then
realize
I'm a
this.
chaplain and the National Guard, in the South Dakota National Guard. But maybe of all that, what's most important and the greatest is that I'm a father, and my wife does work with women. It's called MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers,
Yeah.
and she loves young um, moms that really need support. She does amazing work in that field and really supports mom. And she has a co-op, so we have a or I shouldn't say we. She has a co-op. She founded it. She started
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and it's a great community of people that are just trying to raise their kids and teach them outside the public school.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you've definitely, how long have you been here? Or Rapid City?
We moved here Valentine's Day of 2022.
So 4 years.
Yes, sir.
And and you feel like you've found your place in Rapid City, way it sounds.
Yeah. Yep. Rapid City, I think, is an entrepreneur's dream. I think if you build it and you build it well, people really honor that. And I think people want to support local businesses over big conglomerates. So it's actually a fighting advantage of being a practitioner, local owned business owner versus working for a big therapy
And
business here.
you're talking about generally, not
I
just in the
think
self-help
generally,
thing.
yeah, I think generally, I think Rapid City is an entrepreneur's dream. Look what they're doing
Interesting.
with Elevate. Look what they're doing with their different coffee shops. Look at the construction
Oh,
businesses
it's
like Skull
unbelievable.
Construction. That's a mom and pop,
Yep.
home raised,
Yep.
and they're doing amazing things. But you
Yep.
could duplicate that a million times, right? So I think Rapid City, if you want to like it, it's very Western feeling, like you ride or die on your own bootstraps. Like,
Yep.
so it's
Yep.
going to reward you, but also it's going to hurt, and no one's going to come up and
That,
give you food
that's
stamps
actually
and
interesting you
help you
bring
out.
that
So
up.
it's a double edged sword in
It's this
some ways.
weird balance between a
Yes.
very bootstrap cowboy
Yep.
or rancher. I built this by myself,
Right.
and it's got this element to the sort of the more civilized business world. That's actually interesting. You bring this up because I hadn't exactly thought about that, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And when you plant a flag in Rapid City and say, "Hey, I'm up for business," it's you really see it. I mean, you really see like, okay,
That's really cool.
this community comes around business owners. They want small businesses to thrive. I believe it.
Wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I hadn't
Yeah.
thought about that.
Yeah.
So, because man, a big move like that can be difficult for anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
um, I know a lot of guys who've moved here, and not even to a city, have moved sort of to the more rural part of South Dakota and tried to, find their place here, and that, um, it can be a little stressful because you
Mhm.
first, well, it feels like the first thing you try, well. So I moved here more based on ag, and it felt like the first thing to do was just to get busy.
Mhm.
And then once you get busy, then you start pulling out the things that are maybe not, or that are just busy work,
Mhm.
and then you just kind of, I don't know, but well, that's really cool that you've made this thing work. So trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yes, I wanted to go back before we go. I want to go back to the out of body experiences and the remote viewing.
Okay.
Why do you think that's possible? So
Alright,
in the
yeah.
lower echelons,
Yeah.
it's very, very helpful. But if you take it to its extreme, it gets into these. Why is I don't know if it's the right way of answering the
Yeah.
question. Why is that possible?
I've thought about this so much. I'm going to give you my best.
All right.
And
Good.
everything I say, the caveat is I'm regurgitating other people's material and I'm piecing it together
Okay.
to make my best sense of it all. Okay. We have locale 1, which Tom Campbell wrote, My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything, calls it the physical universe. So physical matter, locale 1. It's here, it's matter, it's
Okay.
physical.
Okay.
We have locale 2. Locale 2 is what Christians would call the spiritual world. When Paul says we do not fight against flesh or blood, but we fight against a principality in the airs of this world, he's talking about locale 2, the
Yep.
spiritual world. There seems to be a bridge between locale 1 and locale 2. And that bridge seems to be what we call bioelectric energy, what the Chinese and Japanese call chi, and what India calls prana. This can be accessed through severe intentional concentration. And there's a very well documented history of ancient practice, discipline, true discipline, not yoga, going to hot yoga on Wednesday. I'm talking about disciplining the body to the point where you have complete control of your mind, complete control of your body. So in India, they call it the Kundalini experience, where this bioelectric energy, it wraps up your spine, goes to the top of your head, and then comes back down in an egg-shaped pattern. Okay, that's really important, egg-shaped pattern. In Qi, have you ever seen the yin yang photo?
Yeah.
Or the yin yang, yin and yang, right?
Symbol. It's the I forget what it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's a circle. There's dark here and there's light here.
With a white dot
It's
in the black and a black dot in
It's
the
a
white.
pattern. So in Qi, when you do Qigong, you're learning how to breathe and you're learning how to circulate this energy around you. Now, this is where it all ties together. Istok Bentov and that document with McConnell, the Lieutenant Colonel McConaughey, he talks about the actual universe itself is egg-shaped. He calls it a torus. Now, this is how it comes together. When you focus your consciousness away from physical material reality, that's step 1. No sight, no touch, no feeling, no sound. That's step 1. Then when you focus it on your bioelectric body and you start harnessing that, you get to experience locale 2. And when you really train yourself, like these people are training themselves in the CIA and the Department of Defense, you can control this second body in locale 2 in the spiritual world. Now, there is a really good argument in that paper, if someone wants to look at it, that there's a band around the universe. The in India, they used to call it the Acacia Records, but it is a store. It is a band. Thomas Campbell, in My Big Theory of Everything, he calls it the storehouse of everything that has ever been. But that band resonates at a certain frequency. If you can discipline your body to resonate at that frequency, you can essentially access everything that is. So that is I think it's like 5.7 hertz or so.
Yep.
I think that's the number. You'd have to really look at the document.
I can't remember either.
But it's like a tuning fork. So if you had an instrument and I had an instrument and someone hit a tuning fork and it just vibrated that key on that instrument, I think it's the same concept. that if you really discipline your body and get it to vibrate at that key, at that frequency, then you can, with your consciousness, access all that is. All that is. That's the fascinating thing. So if you want to look at what someone's doing in the next room, okay, that's part of all that is. If you want to explore the past, that's all that is. Anything that's ever happened in the past, that's all that is. That's all the Acacia records. So I think that's how it works.
Well, look, it's even maybe more because there's the idea is posited that you can see into the future. Like something like, I mean, this seems crazy, but all that will be, which but oddly seems to be still malleable somehow. So I don't, but I still don't understand how this
has something to do with the Taurus. It really does. I when I read this literature and I really look into it, it has something to do with that shape, because the Taurus, if the universe is shaped this way, and this goes right back into Jungian psychology, if the Taurus is shaped in, and there's a white hole here where life begins and a black hole here where life ends, and all the universe is going towards from the white hole to the black hole, as a lot of physicists shape. So you picture that. Now, Carl Jung and a lot of others say the universe is within you. So if you are able to access that part of you, you essentially can access all that is in the universe. There's some key there.
Well, it's even hinted at in the biblical text, in the New Testament. This idea that the universe is within you.
Oh, and Jesus says, like, the kingdom is within.
Yes,
yes. The kingdom of heaven is here. The kingdom of heaven is now.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is my best jab at it.
I mean, it's just so fascinating to me that
there's non-physical entities. I think Christians get down with that. Non-physical entities, angels, demons, right? So the question is, where do they reside?
Right.
And the answer is locale 2. We are both locale 1 and locale 2. We're rare.
So we seem to have this, but for whatever, especially as maybe the conservative Christians, we immediately attribute that immediately as demonic or evil.
Yep, that's right.
Rather than potential.
Yep, that's right.
Peterson and Jung, they would see it more as potential is huge to them, especially maybe Peterson talks about, and that's how viewing the world as potential is a key, rather than viewing it as something is this or is that. It just is. I don't know. Anyway, well, I don't really know either. I mean, I find that within myself, even that, like, if let's just say I took this Hemi-Sync thing, used these tools and went and took them all the way and got into full blown out of body experiences and remote viewing. Am I dabbling in something that isn't to be dabbled in?
That's the question that led me. I said I had a lot of fear to begin with.
Yeah.
That was the question I had to wrestle with. And how I answered it was, Jesus talked about, you will know a tree by its fruit. A good tree cannot bear good fruit. A bad tree cannot bear bad fruit. And so when people wrestle with this, I ask them to evaluate the fruit. Does it give you peace? Does it give you joy? Does it give you patience? Is it leading you to kindness, goodness, self-control? Or is it causing more fear, more hate, more disruptive patterns, more chaos in your life? And I haven't found a single person that doesn't find the fruit of the Spirit from doing the work. So I would say judge a tree by its fruit. Pray about it, discern.
Yep.
There's nothing that bars it from the Bible. So when we have these technologies that aren't biblical. They're not in the Bible. They're not anti-biblical. They're
Right.
just not in the Bible.
Right.
Like, we don't have technologies about the car. So do we use it? Do we not? You
Right.
know,
Right.
we don't have technology about these microphones, these cameras and stuff. So do we use it? Do we not? We have to. That's where wisdom comes in. That's where discerning comes in. So is it making
That's a
you?
good way to
Is it
think about
leading
it.
you closer to Christ? Is it making you have more peace in your life? If you're doing it and all of a sudden you start becoming more angry, more resentful,
You have
more
to be.
lustful, I mean, then you
I'm
gotta
very glad you
you gotta
brought this
check
up.
into that.
There are two things. Two things. One of them is the fruit of the spirit is extremely seems important.
Yeah.
And of an extreme awareness. Because you have to like the level of awareness that you have to have, like, so when you're in a situation, even and for me the goal is, like, even I've talked to you about this before, but being in a confrontational situation and staying fully in control. And when I say in control, stay fully aware
Mm-hmm.
of my own reactions, because that's the thing. Because the fruit, I like you said, the fruit of the spirit, that's the thing we use to analyze. It's the gauge, and whatever it is within us that can gauge where we are is the thing that tells us the right and the wrong. That's a fantastic note to end on. Skylar, listen, what's the name of your website? Where can people see what you're doing?
Yeah, mindbodyspiриttherapist.com.
Fantastic. Are you on social media anywhere?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Facebook, Twitter.
Good.
Yeah.
Listen, it's been a fantastic conversation, Skylar, and I'm more educated now than when you got here, and so that's the goal.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.